So over the last few days, I've seen a lot of negativity around Liverpool Football Club. But what is the truth? Because on one hand, I agree that there are some reasons to worry, but on the other hand, I actually think there's some reasons to be very positive of the upcoming season. Are Liverpool really in trouble? And the first place I want to start is talking about transfers, and that's the big topic on everyone's lips at the moment, or should I say, the lack of transfers, because obviously Liverpool are the only Premier League club yet to sign a single player. And not only that, they're actually the only club in Europe's top 5 leagues yet to make a signing, which is actually quite outstanding considering the fact that Liverpool finished third in the Premier League last season. They didn't finish first, they didn't win the Premier League, they didn't win the Champions League, they didn't win the highest competitions. So clearly there is a gap that needs to be bridged between Arsenal, who were second in the Premier League last season, 7 points ahead of Liverpool, and Manchester City, who won the Premier League, 9 points ahead of Liverpool. And both of those teams have gone out and made signings themselves. Arsenal have signed Ricardo Calafiori from Bologna, and they look like they're going to be signing Mikel Moreno from Real Sociedad, as well as maybe another 4 players as well, depending on if Eddie Nketiah and Reece Nelson leave the club. And Manchester City, of course, have lost Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid, which is going to be a massive loss, but they look like they may still try and replace him, as well as if you include the signing of Savinho, who was on loan at Girona last year as well. And when you think about it as well, Liverpool have lost some crucial players with lots of experience at the club who were well liked as well. All three of Adrian San Miguel, Thiago Alcantara and Joel Matip left the club on a free at the end of last season. But not only that, Liverpool lost legendary former manager Jurgen Klopp, who decided to leave at the end of last season, who also took all of his entire backroom staff with him as well. But it is clear, even while Jurgen Klopp was manager of Liverpool last season, that Liverpool had some areas which they needed to address. If you think about the results that happened last season, Liverpool lost the quarterfinals of the FA Cup to Manchester United in quite a fashion which they had control of the game and they shouldn't really have lost it. They were 2-1 up at Old Trafford and had chances to finish that game off until Man United equalised and ended up winning the game as well. If you think about the Europa League quarter-final, in which they lost 3-1 to Atalanta on aggregate, the first leg, which was at Anfield when Atalanta beat Liverpool 3-0, was a massive surprise and honestly a little bit embarrassing as well, because no one expected Atalanta to go all the way. And in terms of league performance as well, when Liverpool were unexpectedly, in my opinion, in a title race, and they ended up losing 1-0 to Crystal Palace at home, they lost 2-0 away at Goodison Park in the Merseyside derby to Everton, they went away to West Ham and drew 2-2, and they went away to Aston Villa and drew 3-3. So they were clearly signs that Liverpool needed to buy in some reinforcements this summer, and those two areas mainly were the centre-back position and the defensive midfield. A new incoming manager, Arne Slot, decided that he didn't want to sign anyone straight away, which is fair enough, because he wanted to have a look at everyone in pre-season before deciding which areas he needed to sign players in and who he wanted. But it came out that Liverpool really wanted to sign Real Sociedad defensive midfielders Martin Zubimendi. However, that deal hasn't materialised after Liverpool initially agreed terms with the player and were willing to pay the release clause for the Spanish midfielder, but he decided to change his mind, say no to Liverpool, and had left Liverpool with absolutely no one to sign. And now reports are coming out, quite worryingly in my opinion, that Liverpool will not be signing anyone in the number 6 position, only 7 days after they came out that Liverpool would certainly sign a defensive midfielder this summer. And that's the worrying part in terms of recruitment for me, because for 3 consecutive summers, Liverpool have missed out on the number 1 target. 3 summers ago, it was Tchouaméni who decided to join Real Madrid. Last summer, it was Jude Bellingham who decided to join Real Madrid as well as Moise Caicedo and Romeo Lavia, who both Liverpool wanted and decided to join Chelsea, and this summer now seems to be Martin Zubimendi. So it's not just the manager and the managerial pull of Jurgen Klopp that Liverpool couldn't use to convince players to join. It is now the new manager pull of Arne Slot, which doesn't seem to be working. But I actually think it's more behind the scenes which we should worry about, because 3 different sporting directors in Michael Edwards, Richard Hughes and George Smacker have all failed to get their targets that they wanted at Liverpool. And this brings me on to strategy as a whole, because Liverpool clearly have an approach where they want the best in class or no one at all. And it's quite interesting because clearly I can understand it from one perspective of, we already have really good players at the club and we only want to bring in better players if they think they can drastically improve the quality of the squad already. We don't want to sign players who are only just a little bit better than what we already have, because what's the point? Because we have a brilliant manager, a brilliant coach staff who can improve the players. On one hand, I can understand that, yes, but with Arne Slot and his style of play, Wataru Endo clearly doesn't fit his style of play, and so therefore the Liverpool need to go out and sign a defensive midfielder because they don't have anyone on the books who can do that role. So to decide not to sign a defensive midfielder whatsoever, in my opinion, is incredibly risky and could derail the whole season. And most other clubs have a second, third, fourth, fifth choice option on their books that they're willing to go out and spend the money on if the first or second choice don't work. So why is it different for Liverpool? And it does bring into the question ambition. what is the ambition of the owners, what are the ambition of the recruitment staff, and what are the ambitions of the manager. Because clearly, if they're willing to wait and potentially risk a crucial part of Arne Slot's system in the number 6 position, not recruiting anyone in for that and willing to work with what they have, are they serious about trying to catch up with Arsenal and Manchester City? Which I'm sure is a question a lot of Liverpool fans have. But I'm certain that ambition isn't only just a question that Liverpool fans have, I'm sure it's a question that the current players have. Because 3 players in particular, Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk and Trent Alexander-Arnold, all have their contracts expiring at the end of next summer, which is a massive worry because at the moment the players have all the power and the club doesn't have any whatsoever. So they're obviously, after the announcement the club is not going to be staying at Liverpool at the end of last season, they're going to wait. They're going to bide their time. They're going to see who the new manager is. The manager is Arne Slot. How's he going to do in pre-season? But most importantly, how is he going to do at the beginning of the season? Is it going to work? Is the style of play going to work? Is there going to be any drop-off from the old manager Jurgen Klopp? And they're going to have all the power in their hands. And Liverpool really don't have any bargaining chips at the moment. Because if Liverpool don't start the season well, then all 3 of those players are going to bide their time. They're going to wait. They're going to potentially wait all the way till January, in which they can talk to other clubs. And that is going to be a massive worry. Because as soon as they can talk to other clubs, they've already, in my opinion, got one foot out of the door. Because they're mentally thinking about their futures if they weren't at Liverpool. And I think that's a massive worry for Liverpool going forward. And those 3 players, like Liverpool fans, are going to wait and see what the ambition of the club is. Because they're not going to be short of offers. Trent Alexander-Arnold is already being linked with the likes of Real Madrid. Mo Salah has had many offers from the Saudi Pro League, but maybe even worryingly enough, not just the Saudi Pro League, the likes of Van Dijk and Salah, worst case scenario, they could end up joining a rival of Liverpool and playing in the Premier League, which would be disastrous. But I know in a medium kind of scenario, they end up going to join somewhere else in Europe. So clearly the priority is to sign a defensive midfielder and potentially, in my opinion, even a centre-back this summer. And if Liverpool were unable to do that, then I think it could mean that all 3 of those players may not sign their contracts in the coming weeks. And so the plan is clear. Liverpool have to sign a defensive midfielder for me this summer. And if they don't, then I think it could potentially be a bit of a failure of a transfer window. And not only just a defensive midfielder, I thought before that Liverpool needed to sign a centre-back as well. The remarkable rise of Jarrell Kwanzaa has maybe alleviated some of the concerns in the defence. However, when you think about it, Ibrahim Konate has injury issues. Joe Gomez last season did very well in terms of injury, only missed 1 game last season due to injury, but prior has missed a lot of games of football. And obviously Jarrell Kwanzaa and Conor Bradley coming in, that youthful exuberance has really helped their side in the defence. However, when results are going well, it's great. However, when results aren't great, there is a very fine line between youthful exuberance and youthful naivety. So there is something just to keep an eye on in Liverpool's defence as well. So then say, worst case scenario, Liverpool don't sign a defensive midfielder, they don't sign a centre-back this summer. They end up next summer still needing those 2, and also they've got to try and replace Van Dijk, Trent and Salah. That is 5 signings Liverpool need to do next summer on an urgent level, and have no money from player sales so far to be able to go and do that, which means that Liverpool have to splash the cash massively. And if they weren't able to do that and weren't able to sign a high caliber of players to replace those 3 players, plus the 2 I think they need to sign this summer, then all of a sudden you can looking at Liverpool dropping down a few levels in terms of performance and in terms of league position. And while in the current season you may look at it and think, okay, Liverpool aren't regressing, but they're not progressing either, they're staying stagnant, that's not a worry, Liverpool may still finish 3rd. Well, in context, it's fine when you're staying still, but the rest of your opponents, in terms of the teams behind them in Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, Man United, Chelsea, Newcastle, they're all improving, signing players, trying to get better, so they're catching up. And then Arsenal and Manchester City, already ahead of Liverpool, are already improving and getting further and further away. In context of the entire league as a whole, Liverpool technically are regressing, and the fact that Liverpool don't have a world-class manager anymore in Jurgen Klopp to get the best out of the side, and they have a potentially world-class manager, I'd say a very good manager at the moment in Arne Slot. While, things could go really well for him, he's not Jurgen Klopp, so there is going to be a little drop off there as well. And that's all incredibly worrying, but I did say at the beginning of the video that there are some positives as well. And there are, because firstly I want to start off with manager Arne Slot, because while he's come in and he's got massive boots to fill to try and replace Jurgen Klopp, I think he's done a good job so far, and to be fair, he's done as well as he probably could have done in pre-season. Yes, Liverpool lost their first game of pre-season at a behind closed doors fixture against Preston 1-0, but then since then they ended up beating Real Betis 1-0, they beat Arsenal 2-1, Manchester United 3-0 and Sevilla 4-1, and before drawing 0-0 with Las Palmas at Anfield. So not only have the results been good, there has also been a clear identifiable style of play which is different from Jurgen Klopp, but similar enough where you can still utilize the majority of the players and able to just change one or two things about them to make them fit them into the system that Arne Slot wants them to play. So implementing a new style of play is going well, and the manager is definitely betting into the club as well. Unfortunately, we won't really know how well he's doing until the first game of the season kicks off and the first few games of the season kick off and competitive football really starts, because when there's 3 points on the line, then we'll see how well the Liverpool side are doing and how well they can implement Arne Slot's style of play. And the second positive is that while they're not world-class players, Liverpool have a very good crop of young, exciting, talented players coming into the side at the moment. I mean, we've already spoken the likes of Jarrell Kwanzaa and Conor Bradley, who I think this season are really going to catch a light. They've also got some other players on the fringe, the likes of Stefan Bajcetic, who really needs to get himself fit at the moment because he had a horrible injury at the end of last season. And Liverpool have some players who are still a little bit young and maybe not quite ready for the first team, but are still doing a very exciting job at the moment in the likes of Bobby Klopp, James McConnell and Ben Doak. So all in all, the squad may not be where it needs to be to compete with the likes of Arsenal, Man City to win the Premier League and perhaps win the Champions League as well in Europe. However, it is still a very good, young, exciting squad that is capable of definitely getting Champions League football next season and at least winning a trophy in some sort. So there are a lot of worries, as I mentioned. However, there are still some positives as well, and in my opinion, why worry about the negative when at the moment they're just hypothetical and can still be addressed and fixed for now. But what I think about Liverpool as a whole, well, I definitely think that Arne Slot needs to get off to a good start, because not only is that crucial for him as the new manager in charge of Liverpool replacing Jurgen Klopp, it's also important if Liverpool want to try and re-sign Trent, Van Dijk and Salah. And I think he will get off to a pretty good start. I think Liverpool's first 5 fixtures on paper are the best of any side in the Premier League. However, it'll be how well can Arne Slot cope in those winter months of December and January when they've got a load of fixtures piling up on them, potentially injury issues as well. They've got the 2 extra fixtures in the Champions League to compete with as well. And if they don't immediately qualify for the round of 16, they could essentially go into a knockout as well. So that'll only add even more fixture congestion to their fixtures. And with everyone else improving around them, are Liverpool just staying stagnant, or actually are they improving with the young players coming through? Only time will tell. I think for the moment, I think what Liverpool really need is for the seasons to start and for them to get 3 points on the board, because that way then all of a sudden people have something else to talk about other than transfers, and they can actually talk about the football on the pitch as well. Where do I think Liverpool are going to finish this season? Well, I've actually already done a video on my preseason predictions, and to find out where I put Liverpool, go ahead and check that video out right now.